My name is Maya. I'm 26 years old. And the morning of my wedding, my future mother-in-law walked into my bridal suite holding a pair of scissors and said, quote, "I think we need to make some adjustments to help you look more appropriate for our family photos." She started cutting the traditional Korean embroidery off my custom wedding dress, the gold thread phoenixes my grandmother had sewn by hand in Seoul, the crimson silk panels that represented good fortune. Snip, 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 60 hours of work falling to the floor in pieces. My bridesmaids stood frozen. My mom, on video call from Korea, screamed through the phone. My fiancé's mother smiled and said, "There. Much better. Now you'll look like a real bride." We were at the Rosewood Hotel in downtown Portland, in the bridal suite my mother-in-law had insisted on booking and paying for. 5 bridesmaids in soft pink stood watching. My mom was on my laptop screen, 7 in the morning in Seoul, dressed and ready to watch me get ready even though she couldn't afford to fly here for the wedding. My custom dress had taken 9 months to make. I'd worked with a designer in LA who specialized in fusion wedding gowns, dresses that honored multiple cultures without looking like a costume. The base was classic Western, ivory silk, A-line silhouette, chapel train, but woven throughout were Korean elements my grandmother had added herself. Gold phoenixes embroidered on the bodice, crimson silk panels at the waist, symbolizing joy and good fortune, delicate Korean knotwork at the hem. My future mother-in-law had seen photos of the dress, said it was interesting and unique. I thought she meant it as a compliment. I didn't scream when she started cutting. I stood frozen, watching gold threads fall onto the white carpet like wounded birds. My maid of honor grabbed for the scissors, but my mother-in-law stepped back, still smiling, still cutting. "Patricia, stop!" My mom's voice cracked through the laptop speakers in Korean, then English. "That's my mother's work. Stop!" Patricia glanced at the screen, shrugged, and made one final snip through a crimson panel. "There. Now Maya will look like she actually belongs in this family." She left the dress on the floor, threads scattered like evidence of a crime, and walked out to check on the flowers. My maid of honor locked the door behind her and said 3 words, "Get the backup." What would you do if your mother-in-law literally cut your heritage off your wedding dress to make you look more appropriate? Would you wear the destroyed dress and stay silent? Or would you make sure everyone at that wedding, all 200 guests, saw exactly what she tried to erase? Tell me in the comments if you think I went too far with what I did next, or if she got exactly what she deserved. Hit subscribe right now because when I walked down that aisle 3 hours later in a completely different dress, and my mother-in-law's champagne glass shattered on the marble floor, the look on her face is something you need to see. Before the scissors, before the backup dress, before everything exploded in gold and crimson and shattered glass, I genuinely believed Patricia was trying. I'm Maya Kim, 26, a graphic designer in Portland. I was born here, but my parents immigrated from Seoul when I was 2. I grew up speaking Korean at home, English everywhere else, moving between 2 worlds like changing clothes. My fiancé David is 28, white, from a family that's lived in Oregon for 4 generations. His mother, Patricia, is 56, a retired real estate agent who volunteers at the country club and plans the church's annual fundraiser. His father, Robert, is 58, owns a small accounting firm. They're the kind of people who summer as a verb and think Olive Garden is ethnic food. When David first brought me home to meet his parents 2 years ago, Patricia's first question was, "Kim? Is that Irish?" "Korean," I said. "Oh, how exotic. David's never brought home anyone international before." I was born in Portland. I'm about as international as the Columbia River. But I smiled and ate her pot roast, and pretended not to notice when she asked if I used chopsticks at home or if I spoke Chinese, Korean. I speak Korean. And yes, I know how to use a fork. The microaggressions were small at first, asking if I was really American or just had citizenship, calling my mom's kimchi that spicy cabbage and opening windows when we brought Korean food to family dinners. Buying David a cookbook called Asian Fusion Made Easy for Christmas with a note, "So Maya can teach you her culture's food." I'm a 3rd-generation graphic designer. I barely know how to make kimchi. My mom sends it to me in jars. But David loved me, and I loved him, and his dad was kind, and I told myself Patricia just needed time to adjust to her son dating someone different. She was trying. Sort of. In her own way. When we got engaged last April, Patricia cried and hugged me and said, "Welcome to the family." I thought we'd turned a corner. Then the wedding planning started. In May, she suggested we do the ceremony at her country club instead of the botanical garden I'd chosen. "It's just more traditional," she said. "More appropriate for our family." In June, she asked if we really needed to include Korean elements. I mean, it's David's wedding too. Shouldn't it reflect both of you equally? As if erasing my culture entirely was equality. In July, she forgot to include my Korean relatives in the rehearsal dinner head count. 23 people. Just slipped her mind. In August, she suggested I wear my hair down, instead of in the traditional Korean style I'd planned. "You have such pretty hair when it's loose and natural." By September, I'd learned to pick my battles, save my energy for the things that mattered most. The dress was one of those things. I'd found a designer in LA, Christine Park, who specialized in fusion weddings. She understood immediately what I wanted, a dress that honored both parts of me without making me choose. We spent 4 months on the design. My grandmother flew from Seoul to LA specifically to add the embroidery. 60 hours of delicate handwork, each phoenix feather individually stitched in gold thread that cost $40 per spool. The dress cost $8,500. My parents and I split it. It was the most expensive thing I'd ever owned, and the most meaningful. When I showed Patricia photos in October, she stared at them for a long moment and said, "Well, it's certainly unique, very you." I took that as approval. The dress arrived 2 weeks before the wedding. I hung it in my apartment, looking at it every night, seeing my grandmother's hands in every gold stitch, seeing both my cultures woven together in silk and thread and love. I had no idea Patricia had decided it was too Korean, too visible, too much me, and I had no idea she was planning to fix it. The pattern of erasure wasn't new. I'd just been too hopeful to see it clearly. Age 24, first meeting. Patricia asked if I celebrated American holidays or just Korean ones. I celebrated Thanksgiving, and Chuseok, and Christmas, and Solal. I contained multitudes, but she wanted me to choose one. Age 24, Thanksgiving dinner. She served only American food. When my mom asked if she could bring kimchi or japchae, Patricia said, "Oh, let's keep it traditional this year." As if Korean food couldn't be traditional. As if my traditions didn't count. Age 25, Christmas. Patricia bought David a DNA ancestry test. "Wouldn't it be fun to see where you really come from?" she said to him. Not me. When the results came back showing he was mostly British and German, she framed them. She never asked about my ancestry. She could see it on my face. Age 25. Engagement party. Patricia hired a photographer, but only sent me 3 of the 200 photos taken. In all 3, I was partially cut off or blurred in the background. David's white ex-girlfriend from high school was in 47 photos, properly framed and smiling. Patricia said the photographer must have focused on the people who photographed well. Age 26. Wedding website. Patricia offered to build it. I said yes, grateful for help. When it went live, the About the Couple section had a photo of David alone. My bio was 3 sentences. His was 3 paragraphs. Under cultural traditions, she wrote, "The ceremony will honor the Davidson family's Presbyterian heritage." Nothing about Korean traditions, nothing about me. I asked her to add information about the Paebaek ceremony, the traditional Korean wedding ritual where wed bow to elders and receive blessings. She said, "Do we really need to confuse guests with that? Let's keep things simple." Simple meant white. Simple meant erasing me. Age 26, dress shopping. Patricia insisted on coming to my final fitting in LA. She brought David's aunt and 2 of her friends. When I came out in the dress, she tilted her head and said, "It's very detailed. Are you sure you don't want something simpler? More classic?" "This is classic," I said. "Korean and Western together." "Right. But will it photograph well? All that busy embroidery?" The embroidery my grandmother had spent 60 hours sewing by hand. Busy. She took photos of me in the dress. I found out later she'd posted them in her private Facebook group with the caption, "My future daughter-in-law's wedding dress?" Thoughts? 14 comments suggested I should wear something more traditional, or less ethnic, or appropriate for a church wedding. Age 26. 1 month before wedding. Patricia texted me an article titled, "How to Handle Cultural Differences in Mixed Marriages." The key points highlighted: be willing to compromise, don't force your culture on others, remember you're joining their family. I wasn't joining their family. We were creating a new one that included both of us. But Patricia had already decided I needed to be less Korean and more Davidson, less gold phoenixes and crimson silk, more simple, more appropriate, more white. Age 26, 2 weeks before wedding. Patricia asked if I was really going to wear that dress. I said yes. She said, "Well, it's your choice, but I hope you know it might look odd in the family photos." Odd. My heritage was odd. Age 26, 1 week before wedding. Patricia offered to pay for the bridal suite at the Rosewood Hotel. "My treat," she said. "I want you to have a perfect morning." I thought it was a peace offering, a sign she was accepting me, dress and all. I didn't realize she was planning something else entirely. Age 26, wedding day morning, 8:47 a.m. Patricia walked into the bridal suite. I was in my robe, hair and makeup done, about to put on the dress. She was carrying a small bag. "I brought some things to help you get ready," she said, smiling. My bridesmaids thought she meant jewelry or a veil or some mother-in-law gift. We had no idea she'd brought scissors. And we had no idea that in 3 hours, those scissors would be evidence in the most viral wedding revenge story of the year. Sitting on the floor of that bridal suite, surrounded by gold threads and ruined silk, I finally understood what I'd been refusing to see for 2 years. Patricia didn't want a Korean daughter-in-law. She wanted David to marry someone white, someone simple, someone who fit into her country club world without making anyone uncomfortable. Someone whose heritage didn't show up in embroidery and family photos and future grandchildren's faces. My maid of honor, Sarah, knelt beside me, carefully gathering the cut pieces. "Maya, we need to call the police. This is destruction of property. $8,000 of property. And assault," my bridesmaid Jennifer added. "She was a lawyer. She came at you with scissors. That's threatening behavior." My mom's voice came through the laptop, shaking with rage and heartbreak. "I'm calling your father. We're getting the next flight. Well, sue her. Well, cancel the wedding. You don't marry into a family like this." But I didn't want to cancel the wedding. I loved David. This wasn't his fault. Had been getting ready with his groomsmen, had no idea his mother had just destroyed months of work and my grandmother's legacy. I wanted to marry him. I just didn't want to let Patricia win. Sarah's phone buzzed. She glanced at it and her eyes went wide. "Maya, we have a problem. Patricia just posted a photo of your destroyed dress on Instagram." She turned the phone to show me. There was my dress, spread on the floor, gold threads scattered. The caption, "Sometimes last-minute alterations are necessary. Helped my future daughter-in-law simplify her dress this morning. Much better. Hashtag mother-in-law knows best. Hashtag wedding day. Hashtag blessed. 43 likes already." Comments from her friends. "You're such a good Mill. How sweet of you to help. It looks better already." She'd posted evidence of her crime and framed it as helping me. That's when something shifted inside me. From heartbreak to cold, calculated fury. I looked up at Sarah. "Do we still have the backup plan?" See, here's what Patricia didn't know. I'd grown up with a mother who taught me to always have a backup plan. "Hope for the best, prepare for the worst," my mom always said. It's how immigrants survive. It's how you protect yourself in a world that wants you to be smaller, quieter, less visible. 3 months ago, when Patricia first started making comments about my dress being too much, I'd started preparing. Just in case she tried to control this one thing I'd refused to compromise on. I'd ordered a second dress. Not a backup wedding dress. A statement. I'd contacted a traditional Korean hanbok designer in LA, the same one who'd made my dress for my grandmother's 80th birthday. I'd sent her my measurements and explained what I needed, a wedding hanbok that would make Patricia's country club friends stare. That would make it impossible to pretend I was anything other than proudly, beautifully, unapologetically Korean. The designer had delivered it 2 weeks ago. It was hanging in Sarah's hotel room, 3 floors up. Wed called it Plan B. Sarah grinned. Oh, we have the backup plan. Then let's use it. My mom stopped crying. Maya, yeah, what are you thinking? I'm thinking, I said in Korean, then switched to English so my bridesmaids could understand, that if Patricia wants me to look appropriate for her family photos, I'll give her exactly that. I'll show everyone exactly who I am. Jennifer's face split into a smile. You're going to wear it. The hanbok. I'm going to wear it. My mom started laughing, then crying again, but this time with pride. Your grandmother would love this. Sarah was already texting the other bridesmaids. How long do we have? I checked my watch. Ceremony started at noon. It was 9:15, 2 hours and 45 minutes. That's enough time, Jennifer said. But Maya, you know this is going to cause a scene. Good, I said. I want a scene. I want everyone in that church to see exactly what Patricia tried to cut away. I want them to see what she called inappropriate. I stood up, brushing gold threads off my robe. Get the hanbok, and someone call the photographer. Tell her to be ready for the shot of her career. Patricia wanted me to look like a real bride? I was about to show her what that actually meant. While Patricia was downstairs congratulating herself on fixing my dress, we were upstairs executing a plan she never saw coming. Sarah sprinted to her room and came back with a garment bag. Inside, the most magnificent wedding hanbok I'd ever seen. The jeogori, the jacket, was crimson silk embroidered with gold and silver phoenixes, not delicate, subtle phoenixes like on my destroyed dress. These were bold, fierce, wings spread wide across the fabric. Each feather was detailed with metallic thread that caught the light. The chima, the skirt, was royal blue with gold-embroidered clouds and waves. Traditional symbols of heaven and earth, the journey of life, the eternal nature of love. The whole ensemble cost $3,500, which I'd paid for myself using money I'd saved from freelance work, money Patricia knew nothing about. Jennifer was on her phone, rapid-firing texts. Okay, photographer confirmed. She says she's been doing weddings for 20 years and she's never been more excited. She wants to document everything. Tell her to focus on Patricia's face when I walk down the aisle, I said. Already did. My mom was coordinating from Seoul, texting my aunts and uncles who were coming to the wedding. They're going to help with the payback ceremony. We're doing it properly now. Not hidden away in a side room like Patricia wanted, right there during the reception. Sarah held up the traditional Korean headdress, the jeogduri, silk flowers and hanging ornaments that would frame my face. Are we doing full traditional? Full traditional, I confirmed. My phone buzzed. David. Mom says she helped you with your dress? Is everything okay? I stared at that text for a long moment. Part of me wanted to tell him everything right then. But another part, the part that understood drama and timing and the power of a good reveal, had a better idea. I texted back. Everything's perfect. See you at the altar. I love you. He responded with a heart emoji. He had no idea his mother had just triggered the most epic wedding statement in Portland history. Jennifer looked up from her phone. Maya, legally speaking, what she did is vandalism and possibly assault. We have witnesses. We have her Instagram post as evidence. We have video. Video? Sarah pointed to the laptop. Your mom recorded the whole thing on the video call. Every snip. My mom's voice came through. I have 14 minutes of footage. Her face, the scissors, everything she said. I've already backed it up to the cloud. Don't post anything yet, I said. Let's do this strategically. Here was the plan. Phase 1, 10 to 10:30 a.m. Hair and makeup team arrives. They'd been briefed. Instead of the loose, Western-style waves Patricia had suggested, they were doing a traditional Korean updo. Sleek, elegant, built to support the jeogduri. Phase 2, 10:30 to 11 a.m. Get dressed in the hanbok, full traditional undergarments, the works. Sarah would help. Jennifer would document everything. Phase 3, 11 to 11:30 a.m. Coordinate with the photographer. She was going to position herself to capture Patricia's reaction the moment I appeared. Multiple angles, close up on her face. Phase 4, 11:30 to 12 p.m. Coordinate with my Korean family. They were going to arrive wearing their own hanboks. 10 people, my mom's siblings and their spouses, creating a visual wall of Korean culture that Patricia couldn't ignore or erase. Phase 5, 12 p.m. The ceremony. Walk down that aisle in full traditional Korean wedding attire. Make it impossible for Patricia to crop me out, to simplify me, to pretend I was anything other than Korean American. Phase 6, post-ceremony. Display both dresses side by side at the reception. The destroyed fusion dress in a shadow box with a sign, what my mother-in-law tried to erase. The hanbok I wore on a mannequin with a sign, what I chose to celebrate. Phase 7. Later. Post my mom's video along with the Instagram post Patricia made. Show the world what she did. Let her friends and her country club see who she really was. Jennifer was typing everything into a notes app. This is either going to be the most beautiful statement ever, or a complete disaster. It'll be both, I said. And I'm okay with that. Sarah zipped the garment bag and hung it carefully. Maya, you know Patricia's going to lose it. Good. Let her lose it in front of 200 witnesses. Let everyone see her true colors. My mom's face on the screen was proud and fierce. Your grandmother called. She's watching the ceremony live stream from Seoul. She wants you to know she's proud of you. I felt tears coming but blinked them back. Couldn't mess up the makeup that was about to be applied. Okay, I said. Let's do this. Patricia wanted to make me appropriate for her family. I smiled. I'm about to show her exactly who I am. And if she can't handle that, she doesn't deserve to be part of this family. At 8:47 a.m., Patricia had walked into my bridal suite with a smile and scissors. At 11:47 a.m., I walked out of that same suite, ready for war. The hanbok was stunning. The crimson jewelry caught the light with every breath, phoenixes seeming to move across the fabric. The royal blue chima swished as I walked, gold-embroidered clouds shimmering. The jewelry sat perfectly on my head, silk flowers and ornaments framing my face. I looked like Korean royalty. I looked like my grandmother's granddaughter. I looked like someone Patricia couldn't erase with a pair of scissors and a smile. My bridesmaids had changed too. Instead of the soft pink dresses Patricia had approved, they'd added Korean accessories, traditional norage pendants, hairpins, silk wraps, a fusion that honored both cultures while making it clear. Today was about celebrating Korean heritage, not hiding it. Sarah carried a box containing the destroyed dress, carefully preserved with all the cut threads, ready to be displayed at the reception. Jennifer had the video queued up on her laptop, ready to show anyone who asked. My phone buzzed. My uncle. We're here. All 10 of us in full hanbok. Your aunt is wearing the one from her wedding in 1987. We're ready. Another text, this time from the photographer, positioned with a clear view of the mother of the groom seat. I've got 3 cameras set up. I won't miss a thing. David's text, 5 minutes, can't wait to see you. I love you so much. He still had no idea what was coming. Part of me felt guilty for not warning him. But this wasn't about him. This was about me refusing to be erased. About showing Patricia, and everyone else, that I wasn't going to shrink myself to fit her idea of appropriate. The wedding coordinator knocked. Maya? It's time. I took one last look in the mirror. The woman staring back at me was powerful, unapologetic, visibly, proudly, beautifully Korean. Let's go, I said. The church had 200 guests. Patricia had invited 140 of them, her friends, her country club colleagues, her church group, David's extended family. My side had 60 people, mostly Korean family who'd flown from across the country. Patricia had arranged the seating. Her people filled the first 10 rows on the groom's side. My Korean relatives were relegated to the back on the bride's side. Shed never expected me to change that dynamic. Shed never expected me to become impossible to ignore. I waited in the vestibule with my father. He wore a traditional Korean groom's hanbok in muted colors. Head surprised Patricia by walking me down the aisle in that instead of the Western suit Shed seen him in earlier. Through the doors, I could hear the string quartet playing Pachelbel's canon, Patricia's Choice. Shed vetoed the Korean traditional music id suggested for the processional. The doors would open in 30 seconds. The bridesmaids had already walked. The flower girl, David's niece, had scattered petals. My father looked at me, tears in his eyes. Your mother would be so proud. Both your mothers, the one in Korea on the live stream and the one you're about to have. I squeezed his hand. I'm ready. The wedding coordinator gave us the signal. The strings transitioned to the bridal march. The doors opened. I heard it before I saw it. The collective gasp of 200 people. Then I saw Patricia. She was in the front row, groom's side, in her navy blue mother of the groom dress. Shed been turned to watch for me, champagne glass in hand from the pre-ceremony toast Shed insisted on. The moment I appeared, crimson and gold and royal blue, phoenixes blazing, Jogduri catching the light, her face went through a series of expressions I wish I could have photographed myself. First, confusion. Like she couldn't process what she was seeing. Second, recognition. Understanding that this was me, not some random Korean guest. Third, shock. Pure, unfiltered shock. Fourth, rage. Her face flushed red, mouth opening as if to shout. And then the champagne glass slipped from her fingers. It fell in slow motion, or maybe that's just how I remember it. The crystal hit the marble floor and exploded into 100 glittering pieces. The sound echoed through the church, cutting through the bridal march, making everyone turn to look at her. She stood there, champagne dripping onto her dress, glass shards at her feet, face red with fury, staring at me like I'd committed some unforgivable crime. I smiled at her, a small, polite, utterly calm smile. Then I turned my attention to David, standing at the altar. His face was the opposite of his mother's. He was crying, big, joyful tears streaming down his face. His smile was wider than I'd ever seen it. He mouthed 3 words, "You're so beautiful." Behind me, I heard my 10 Korean relatives enter, filing into the front rows on the bride's side, a wall of traditional hanboks in jewel tones. My aunt's 1987 wedding hanbok was magnificent, deep purple with gold embroidery. Patricia's friends whispered. I heard fragments. Is that? Did you know? The dress? I didn't care. I walked down that aisle with my head high, phoenixes blazing, heritage on full display. Patricia wanted me to look appropriate? It never looked more appropriate in my life. I looked like exactly who I was. The ceremony lasted 37 minutes. Patricia sat through all of it with a frozen smile, glass shards still on the floor at her feet because no one dared clean them up during the ceremony. Every time the photographer's camera flashed, I knew she was capturing Patricia's face. The tight jaw, the forced smile, the way she kept glancing at the exit like she wanted to run. David and I exchanged vows. He squeezed my hands when he said, "I love every part of you," and I knew he meant it. His mother's racism wasn't his fault, but his reaction today, pure joy instead of embarrassment, told me everything I needed to know about who had chosen to be. When the officiant said, "You may kiss the bride," David kissed me and whispered, "You're incredible. Thank you for not letting her win." So Head figured it out. Good. We walked back down the aisle to applause, louder from my Korean relatives than from Patricia's friends, but applause nonetheless. In the receiving line, the reactions were split. Patricia's friends, stiff hugs, tight smiles, questions like, "What happened to your other dress?" and "Is this some kind of cultural statement?" "This is my culture," I said sweetly. "Not a statement, just me." My Korean relatives, tears, tight hugs, praise in Korean about how beautiful I looked, how proud my grandmother must be. And then came the moment I'd been preparing for. Patricia approached as the line cleared. Her champagne-stained dress had a wet spot on the front. Her hands were shaking. Her voice was low and furious. What do you think you're doing? Getting married, I said. Beautiful ceremony, wasn't it? That dress. Where did you get that dress? You were supposed to wear the one I. She caught herself, glanced around to see who was listening. Lowered her voice more. The one we prepared this morning. Oh, the one you cut to pieces with scissors? I said it loud enough for the people nearby to hear. That dress? Her face went white. I was helping you. I was making adjustments. You were erasing my heritage. Without my permission. With scissors. I pulled out my phone and showed her my mom's video. Just the first few seconds of her cutting gold phoenixes from fabric. We have 14 minutes of footage. Would you like to watch it? She stared at the screen, then at me. You recorded it? My mom was on video call from Korea. She saw everything. So did my 5 bridesmaids. And you posted about it on Instagram, remember? Evidence. Patricia grabbed my arm, her nails dug in. You will not embarrass this family. David appeared from nowhere and removed his mother's hand from my arm. Mom, let go of my wife. My wife. First time Head said it. I loved him so much in that moment. David, you don't understand what she's doing. I understand that you cut up her dress this morning, Sarah told me. With scissors. You destroyed $8,000 of property and 60 hours of her grandmother's work. His voice was quiet but steel hard. We'll talk about this later. Right now, you're going to go to the reception and smile and not cause a scene. I'm not causing a scene. She's the one. Mom. He looked at her with an expression I'd never seen on his face before. Disappointment. Not now. She left, heels clicking on marble, leaving a trail of dropped champagne glasses and broken expectations. At the reception, Wed arranged everything exactly as planned. In the center of the room, 2 mannequins stood side by side. The first displayed my destroyed wedding dress. The fusion dress I'd planned to wear, the gold phoenixes cut away, the crimson panels severed. A shadow box at the base held all the threads Patricia had cut, preserved like evidence. A sign read, "What my mother-in-law tried to erase." The second displayed a replica hanbok, not the one I wore, but another traditional wedding hanbok. A sign read, "What I chose to celebrate instead." Guests circled them, reading the signs, putting 2 and 2 together. The whispers grew louder. Then the photographer projected images on the screen set up for toasts. First, Patricia, walking into the bridal suite with scissors. Second, her cutting the dress, smile on her face. Third, gold threads falling. Fourth, her Instagram post, caption visible, "Sometimes last-minute alterations are necessary." Fifth, my mom's face on the video call, screaming in Korean. Sixth, the destroyed dress on the floor. Then the images switched. Seventh, me in the hanbok, radiant and proud. Eighth, walking down the aisle. Ninth, Patricia's face at the moment she saw me, shock and rage clear. 10th, the champagne glass hitting the floor. 11th, me and David at the altar, him crying with joy. 12th, my 10 Korean relatives in their hanboks, a wall of cultural pride. The room was silent. Then someone started clapping. One of David's cousins, then another, then my entire Korean family stood and applauded. Half the room joined. Patricia's half stayed seated, uncomfortable and confused. Patricia stood in the corner, navy dress still stained, watching as her attempt to erase me became the centerpiece of the wedding. My maid of honor, Sarah, handed me a microphone for the toasts. I had 7 minutes of things to say, and Patricia was going to hear every word. I stood at the front of the reception hall, hanbok still perfect, jokduri catching the light. David held my hand. 200 faces watched me. I could have let it go, smiled, said thank you, sat down. But that's what Patricia had counted on my whole life. Me being polite. Me keeping quiet. Me shrinking myself so she'd feel comfortable. Not today. I want to thank everyone for being here to celebrate our marriage, I started. This day has been unexpected, but perfect. Polite laughter. People were nervous, unsure what was coming. Many of you noticed that I'm not wearing the dress you might have seen in photos. The fusion dress I'd planned for months. The one my grandmother spent 60 hours embroidering by hand in Seoul. I paused. That's because this morning, at 8:47 a.m., my mother-in-law entered my bridal suite with a pair of scissors and cut that dress to pieces. Gasps. Whispers exploded. Patricia started to stand, but David's father Robert put his hand on her shoulder, holding her down. She said she was making adjustments to help me look more appropriate for family photos. She cut off every piece of Korean embroidery my grandmother had sewn. The gold phoenixes, the crimson silk panels, everything that showed my heritage. I pulled out my phone and held it up. We have video evidence, 14 minutes of footage. We have her Instagram post where she bragged about simplifying my dress. We have 5 witnesses, and we have the destroyed dress itself, which you can see displayed behind me. Patricia finally stood. This is ridiculous. I was helping her. The dress was too much, too busy, too Korean, I interrupted. That's what you meant. Too visibly Korean. I never said that. You didn't have to. I looked at David's father. Robert, I'm sorry to do this publicly, but your wife has spent 2 years trying to erase my identity. And today, she took scissors to the physical manifestation of my heritage. I pulled up my phone and read from a list I'd prepared. May 2023. Patricia asked if I really celebrated American holidays or just Korean ones. Like I had to choose. Thanksgiving 2023. She refused to let my mother bring Korean food to dinner, saying it should be traditional American. Christmas 2023. She bought David a DNA test and framed his results, but never asked about my ancestry. She could see it on my face. April 2024. Engagement party. The photographer took 200 photos. Patricia sent me 3. I was cut off or blurred in all 3. David's white ex-girlfriend was in 47 photos, centered and clear. June 2024. Wedding website. Patricia built it. My bio was 3 sentences. David's was 3 paragraphs. Under cultural traditions, she mentioned only Presbyterian heritage. Nothing about Korean traditions. October 2024. Dress shopping. Patricia posted photos of my dress in her private Facebook group asking for thoughts. 14 people commented that it was too ethnic or not appropriate for a church wedding. 2 weeks ago, Patricia texted me an article called How to Handle Cultural Differences in Mixed Marriages. The key advice she highlighted: don't force your culture on others. I looked at her. She was pale, shaking. This morning was just the culmination of 2 years of microaggressions. 2 years of being told, in 100 small ways, that my Korean heritage was something to minimize, to hide, to cut away. David squeezed my hand. I could see tears on his face. So when Patricia took scissors to my dress, she wasn't making adjustments. She was trying to make me acceptable, trying to erase the parts of me that made her uncomfortable. I gestured to the hanbok I was wearing. This is my response. This dress is 100% traditional Korean. No fusion, no compromise, no simplification. This is what Patricia tried to cut away. This is who I am. Silence. Then my grandmother's voice came through the speakers. She was on the live stream, and someone had unmuted her audio. Maya ya, she said in Korean, which the bilingual DJ translated in real time. I am so proud. You wear that hanbok like a queen, like your ancestors, like someone who knows who she is. Applause started again, louder this time. More people stood. Patricia tried one more time. This is my son's wedding too. You're making it all about you and your... My what? I interrupted. My culture? My heritage? The parts of me that aren't white? I never said that. You cut them off my dress. Robert stood finally. Patricia, we're leaving. What? No, I'm not. Yes, we are. Now. He looked at David. Son, I'm sorry. We'll talk later. Maya, you look beautiful. Your heritage is beautiful. I apologize for my wife's behavior. He took Patricia's arm and guided her toward the exit. She resisted, trying to speak, but he kept moving. At the door, she turned back. You'll regret this, making a spectacle. Embarrassing us in front of everyone. I called after her. The only thing embarrassing is what you did this morning. And everyone knows it now. The door closed behind them. The room was silent for 3 seconds. Then the DJ, God bless him, started playing traditional Korean wedding music mixed with modern beats. My Korean relatives rushed the dance floor. David's cool aunt followed. Then his cousins, then more people. David turned to me. Are you okay? I'm perfect, I said. She's gone. We're married, and I didn't have to hide. He kissed me, right there in front of everyone. The photographer captured it. Me in my crimson and gold, him in his tux, the destroyed dress and the triumph dress both visible in the background. The picture that would later go viral and change everything. The consequences started before the reception ended. Patricia's Instagram post, the one where Shed bragged about simplifying my dress, began accumulating different kinds of comments. Wait, you cut her dress? Without permission? That's destruction of property. And racist. This woman cut Korean embroidery off her DIL's dress and thought she was helping? My mom posted the full 14-minute video to YouTube at 6 p.m. Title: Mother-in-law destroys daughter-in-law's wedding dress to erase Korean heritage. By 8 p.m., 50,000 views. By midnight, 400,000 views. By the next morning, 2.1 million views. Day 2, Sunday. David and I were on our mini honeymoon. Wed postponed the real one when his phone started exploding. Text from his Aunt Linda. Your mother is calling everyone saying Maya attacked her at the wedding. She's claiming the destroyed dress photos are fake. Thought you should know. Text from his cousin Sarah. Mom's country club is asking questions. Someone sent them the YouTube video. Text from his brother. Dad's moved into a hotel. Hez talking about separation. Mom's losing it. Email from the photographer. I've never had wedding photos go this viral. Every media outlet is requesting permission to use them. Do you want me to send the standard release forms? Wed expected fallout. We hadn't expected this. Day 3, Monday. Local Portland news picked up the story. Wedding dress destroyed, in act of cultural erasure. Bride's response goes viral. They interviewed me via Zoom. I kept it simple. My mother-in-law took scissors to my wedding dress because it had Korean embroidery. I wore a traditional Korean hanbok instead. That's my heritage, and I'm not going to hide it, the reporter asked. Some people are saying you could have handled this privately. What do you say to that? She made it public when she posted on Instagram bragging about cutting my dress. I just showed people what she actually did. By afternoon, the interview had been picked up by 3 major networks. Day 4, Tuesday. Patricia's country club asked her to resign from the board. The email, which Robert forwarded to David, cited behavior inconsistent with our community values of respect and inclusion. Her church group, the one where she organized the annual fundraiser, asked her to step back from leadership, given the current situation and public attention. 5 of her closest friends called David asking if the story was true. When he confirmed it, 3 of them stopped speaking to Patricia. Week 2. The cut dress became a symbol. Korean American influencers shared the story. Asian heritage organizations reached out asking to display the destroyed dress at cultural events. A museum in LA requested it for an exhibit on cultural erasure and identity. Patricia left 5 voicemails for me. I listened to none of them. David listened to one and deleted the rest. She's not apologizing, he said. She's justifying. Saying you overreacted, that she was trying to help. Robert filed for legal separation. The paperwork cited irreconcilable differences and fundamentally different values. Month 1. My grandmother's video from the live stream, her calling me a queen, her pride in my choice, was edited and shared across Korean social media. She became a minor celebrity in Seoul. KBS, a Korean news network, interviewed her about raising a granddaughter who stood proud. The hanbok designer who made my wedding dress received 340 orders in 3 weeks. She had to hire 4 more seamstresses. Patricia's real estate license came up for renewal. 3 formal complaints had been filed regarding discrimination. The licensing board launched an investigation. Month 2. David and I went to counseling. Not marriage counseling, we were solid, but counseling to deal with the trauma of what his mother had done and the viral aftermath. The therapist said something that stuck with me. What she did wasn't just about a dress, it was about control, about trying to decide who you were allowed to be. And you took that power back. Patricia sent a letter, handwritten, delivered by certified mail. Dear Maya, I'm sorry that my actions on your wedding day caused you distress. I was trying to help you fit in with our family and didn't realize how it would be perceived. Perhaps we can move past this and find a way forward. Love, Patricia. I read it 3 times. I'm sorry my actions caused you distress, not I'm sorry I destroyed your dress. Trying to help you fit in, still implying I didn't belong. How it would be perceived, not acknowledging what she actually did was wrong. I showed it to David. What do you want to do? He asked. Month 3. I wrote back. 1 sentence. Patricia, I'll consider reconciliation when you can say these words. I was wrong to cut your dress. I was wrong to try to erase your Korean heritage. I am sorry. Until then, we have nothing to discuss. She never responded. Month 6. David's father finalized the divorce. Head met someone new, a Korean-American woman who owned a gallery in Portland. The irony was almost too perfect. My destroyed dress went on display at the Portland Art Museum in an exhibit called Threads of Identity, Immigration, Heritage, and Belonging. 300,000 people saw it in 3 months. Each one saw the cut phoenixes, the severed crimson silk, the scattered gold threads. And each one saw the photo next to it. Me in my hanbok, radiant and whole. Patricia never apologized. But the world knew what she'd done, and that was enough. Some stories have redemption arcs. This isn't one of them. Year 1. Patricia doubled down. She hired a PR consultant to manage the narrative. The consultant quit after 2 weeks when Patricia insisted the real story was that Id manipulated her by having a backup dress all along. She started a blog called A Mother-in-Law's Truth, where she claimed the dress was cheaply made and falling apart. It cost $8,500. She was preventing a wardrobe malfunction. By cutting it to pieces, Id staged the whole thing for social media attention. I didn't post anything, my mom did. The hanbok was cultural appropriation of my own heritage. What? 14 people followed the blog. 3 were spam bots. David went no contact at the 6-month mark. She'd shown up at our apartment at 2 a.m., drunk, screaming about how I'd stolen her son and ruined her reputation. Police escorted her away. We filed a restraining order. It was approved. Year 2. Patricia lost her real estate license. The investigation had found 3 documented cases of her steering clients away from ethnic neighborhoods and discouraging buyers of color from looking at homes in traditional areas. She blamed me. Sent emails, violating the restraining order, claiming Id weaponized cancel culture against her. Each email extended the restraining order by another 6 months. Robert remarried. His wife Jennifer, the Korean-American gallery owner, was kind, thoughtful, and everything Patricia wasn't. She asked about my heritage, learned Korean phrases, came to my mom's 60th birthday celebration wearing a beautiful hanbok Jennifer had bought herself. At the reception, Jennifer pulled me aside. Robert told me what happened at your wedding. I want you to know. That took courage. To refuse to be erased. I liked Jennifer. Patricia posted on Facebook that her ex-husband was betraying his own race by marrying an Asian woman. Facebook banned her account for hate speech. Year 3. We had our first child, a daughter. We named her Hana, which means one in Korean. Unity, wholeness, both cultures in one person. Patricia sent a gift to the hospital, a blonde-haired, blue-eyed baby doll. The card said, "Hope she looks like our side of the family." David threw it in the trash without opening it. Hospital security was notified that Patricia was not allowed to visit. We had a traditional Baekgil celebration when Hana turned 100 days old. Korean tradition. Robert and Jennifer came. Patricia wasn't invited. I posted photos on Instagram. Hana, in a tiny hanbok, my mom holding her, traditional rice cake towers, Korean food spread across tables. Patricia commented, child abuse to force culture on babies. I blocked her. Year 4. Patricia moved to Arizona. For a fresh start, she told David's brother. Away from Portland where everyone knew what she'd done. She tried to friend me on Facebook from a fake account. I recognized her writing style in the friend request message. Hi there, saw you have a beautiful family, would love to connect. Blocked. The destroyed dress completed its museum tour. It had been displayed in LA, San Francisco, Seattle, Portland, New York, and Chicago. Over 2 million people had seen it in person. The museum in LA asked if they could keep it permanently. It's become a symbol, the curator said, of resistance against cultural erasure, of refusing to be diminished. I said yes. My grandmother's embroidery, the phoenixes Patricia had cut away, would live in a museum, preserved, protected, honored. Patricia had tried to erase it. Instead, Shed made it immortal. Year 5. Hana started preschool. She spoke Korean and English. She ate kimchi and mac and cheese. She had a bookshelf full of Korean fairy tales and Dr. Seuss. She asked one day, Mama, why don't I have 2 grandmas like my friends? Id prepared for this question. You have 3 grandmas, I said. Grandma Kim in Korea, who we video call every week, and Grandma Jennifer, who takes you to the art museum. And you have 1 grandma who made bad choices and isn't part of our family anymore. Did she die? No. She decided that some parts of people weren't important, like where they come from and what makes them special. And when we don't think people's special parts are important, we can't be in their family. That's sad. It is sad. But we can't make people love all of us. We can only love all of ourselves. She thought about this. I love all of me. I'm Korean and American. Yes, you are. And if someone doesn't like that, they're being silly. They're being worse than silly. But yes. Present day, year 5, month 6. Patricia sent a letter to David. Not me. Shed learned that lesson at least. I hear I have a granddaughter. I'd like to meet her. I'm sorry for everything that happened. I was stressed about the wedding. If changed, please give me a chance. David showed me the letter. What do you think? He asked. I looked at my daughter, playing on the floor in a hanbok my mom had sent, singing a Korean children's song my grandmother had taught her over video call. Happy, whole, unapologetic. She hasn't changed, I said. The letter is about her wanting access to Hana, not about what she did to me, not about understanding why it was wrong. So no? So no. He tore up the letter. Some people ask if I regret the viral video, the public confrontation, the way Patricia's life imploded. I don't. She took scissors to my heritage and smiled while she did it. She thought I'd wear her destruction and say thank you. Instead, I wore my pride. I walked down that aisle as exactly who I am. And everyone saw. Patricia lost her reputation, her marriage, her license, her access to her son and granddaughter. I lost nothing. I gained a viral moment that became a movement. A dress in a museum that inspires thousands. A daughter who knows all of herself is valuable. Patricia is alone in Arizona now. I'm here, surrounded by love, wrapped in silk and heritage and pride. She tried to cut me down. I'm still standing. And wearing crimson and gold. Present day, 5 years, 6 months since the wedding. I'm 31 now. Hana is 3. We're planning her first trip to Korea next spring to meet her great-grandmother in person. My grandmother is 84 and already planning what hanbok she'll make for Hana's visit. David is 33, still the man who cried when he saw me in my wedding hanbok, who chose his wife over his mother, who teaches our daughter Korean phrases he learns on Duolingo. Patricia is 61, living alone in Scottsdale, Arizona. According to David's brother, she tells people she has no grandchildren. It's easier than explaining why she doesn't see the one she has. Robert is 63, happily remarried to Jennifer. They visit twice a month and bring Hana art supplies and Korean picture books. They're the grandparents Hana actually knows. Looking back on that wedding day, the scissors, the destroyed dress, the hanbok, the champagne glass shattering, I learned 7 lessons that changed how I see the world. Lesson 1. Erasure is violence. Patricia didn't hit me. She cut fabric. But make no mistake, what she did was violence. Cultural erasure, the attempt to cut away parts of someone's identity to make them more palatable, is an act of aggression. It says, "You are acceptable only when you're less of yourself." When I saw those gold threads falling, I saw my grandmother's work destroyed. I saw my heritage dismissed. I saw my identity treated as disposable. That's violence, even if it leaves no bruises. Lesson 2. Documentation is power. My mom's video, Patricia's Instagram post, the photographer's images, evidence saved me. When Patricia tried to rewrite history, tried to claim she was helping, we had receipts, 14 minutes of footage, screenshots, witnesses. In a world where gaslighting is common, where abusers rewrite narratives, documentation is self-defense. Record, screenshot, save. Evidence tells the truth when liars want. Lesson 3. Silence protects abusers, not victims. People told me to handle it privately, to not embarrass the family, to be the bigger person. That's code for accept mistreatment quietly. I went public because private conversations hadn't worked. 2 years of gentle corrections, hurt feelings, quiet requests for respect had changed nothing. Patricia destroyed my dress and posted about it on Instagram. She made it public first. I just showed people the truth behind her filter. Lesson 4. Your heritage is not a compromise. Id spent 2 years trying to find middle ground. Fusion dresses, subtle cultural elements, Korean traditions hidden in side rooms. Trying to be Korean enough for my family and white enough for Patricia's. The destroyed dress taught me, there is no compromise with erasure. You can't negotiate with someone who wants you to be less of yourself. I wore the hanbok, 100% Korean, 0% apology, because I finally understood that my culture isn't something to tone down. It's something to celebrate. Loudly. Lesson 5. Choose allies who choose you. David could have asked me to keep the peace, to wear the destroyed dress, to not make a scene at his mother's expense. Instead, he stood beside me and told his mother to leave when she couldn't accept who I am. Robert divorced Patricia rather than defend her racism. Jennifer, who owed me nothing, learned Korean phrases and bought her own hanbok to honor my culture. Real allies don't ask you to shrink, they grow to meet you where you stand. Lesson 6. Consequences are not cruelty. Patricia lost her license, her marriage, her relationships, her access to her granddaughter. People call me cruel for not forgiving her, but consequences aren't punishment, they're information. They teach people that actions have outcomes. Patricia learned that racism has a cost, that you can't destroy someone's heritage and keep your reputation, that behavior matters. If I'd forgiven her without change, it'd have taught her that she could do it again. Boundaries aren't cruel. They're necessary. Lesson 7. Your story matters. 2 million people saw my destroyed dress in museums. Millions more saw the video online. Thousands of people, especially mixed-race individuals, immigrants, children of immigrants, messaged me saying, "Thank you. I thought I was the only one. I thought I was overreacting. Your story helped me stand up for myself." That's the power of refusing to stay silent. Your story, your truth, your refusal to be erased, it echoes. It reaches people you'll never meet. It changes things. To anyone facing cultural erasure, microaggressions, or someone trying to cut away parts of your identity, you don't owe anyone a smaller version of yourself. You don't owe them silence. You don't owe them forgiveness without change. You owe yourself the truth of who you are, all of it, unapologetically. And if someone can't love all of you, they don't get access to any of you. I walked down that aisle in crimson and gold. I'm still wearing it, and I always will.